One.
This is A.G. Longoria, the president of the California Tennis Coaches Association. We're having our weekly Zoom meeting. I have Bill Patton, who is in charge of our web and our social media, and counselor. I have Andrea Dodd from Texas, who is our executive secretary. And we have an agenda. We're going to start off talking about the UTR Saturday events remaining at Laguna Hills High School. Just as a refresher, we have a situation where we want to get UTR involved in high school tennis in California. It's already been started for about 3 years in Texas. It's doing well. Obviously, it's huge in college tennis, and it's huge in pro tennis. March issue of Tennis Magazine, of a 6-page article on UTR. The Australian Tennis Association has just officially endorsed it. They rank everybody from Djokovic all the way down to anybody, and we think we're excited about it. So what we have done, we want to we have a way of introducing it to California. Go ahead, Bill.
I was going to say also the PTR is now an official partner of the UTR. So I saw Dan Santorum a couple days ago and Brian Parkinen, let them know. I thought that was a great move.
What is PTR?
Professional Tennis Registry. So it's one of the larger tennis coaches associations in the world.
Like USPTA, thank you on that. Well, what we're doing is that we didn't want to launch this to everybody and have some glitches. So we decided to just use one of my high schools, Laguna Hills High School here in Southern California, and we scheduled 8 events, 2 a month for the spring. A one-day event, which is a fundraiser for schools, especially in California. We are not funded like everybody else. We have to go out and raise our own money, we do car washes, sell candy, sell programs, whatever. And this is a way that on a Saturday, the coach of a high school in California can host a one-day UTR CTCA event for $30, which gives them 3 matches in a 2-hour time span. They get UTR points, they get to play, and half of the proceeds of the net would go to the school. So we set this all up with UTR, and they've been helping us, and we've been advertising. Unfortunately, we're in this river of storms and rain. We've had the first 3 totally rained out. And not only that, it just stopped raining today. So our next one is in 10 days. We're hoping that people sign up. And what happens is the weather has been so bad that even 4 days out, it's still raining, or it's raining up into the tournament, that people don't even sign up because they know it's going to be wiped out. So we have 5 left. We, again, have put out emails and let coaches know, let your players know. So until we do that, everything else kind of backed up.
Right. Hey, AG, can you shift your computer a little bit, because we're getting kind of some.
Shut the blinds next to your. Shut the blinds.
Okay, hold on.
Yeah. We're getting a lot of glare off of your computer. But there we go. So
Good
much
job.
better.
Okay. Sorry about that.
No, you're good. The sun came out.
Right. So the next phase of that is that we're inviting coaches, please send their kids and then come and visit, or we'll give them a report, because the next phase 2 of this is to have UTR in my school district, because the paperwork, which is daunting, is incredible just to get it in my school. But because you're dealing with the city and the courts and a percentage and this and insurance, we did all that for Laguna Hills High School, but we have 4 other schools in our district, 3 other schools. We have El Toro, we have Mission, and Trabuco Hills. So that thing that I sent you is that the goal is that because the paperwork is the same for one school or the 4 in our district, I'm proposing to the coaches in our district to host one tournament one Saturday a week, and we rotate it. So, for example, my high school, Laguna Hills, would have the first week of the month, and then the next week, El Toro would have the second week, and the third week, Trabuco Hills, and the fourth week, El Toro, and it just rotates around, and we get our kids used to playing which is a lot cheaper than trying to go play USTA. You don't have to join USTA. You don't even have to join UTR, but you get 3 matches. So we solved 2 problems for our district, getting our kids to play outside events and in a shortened period of time, and raising money. And then the next phase obviously is to go out to all of the schools, offer to all the schools in California.
Yeah, that's great. I wanted to make a clarification though, because you said UTR points, but it's really important to differentiate from USTA, because USTA gives points. The UTR is a rating.
It's a rating, yeah.
So no matter what, so win or lose, you will get a rating. And generally your rating will continue to go up. It's not often that the ratings go down. So as you continue to improve, your rating will improve. So you'll get good credit. If you play a good player and you lose 5-7, 5-6-4, your rating will improve if that was a great result for you, to be close with that player. Whereas with a point system, you get 0, right? So so those close matches that show some improvement are rewarded, and I think that's a really important aspect of UTR.
It's a rating system, not a point system.
Right.
I stand corrected. Thank you, Andrea.
Mm-hmm.
So in any way, that's the goal, and we're getting 3 days of no rain, 4 days, and then hopefully we'll get out of this area and get people involved. So we're basically 2 months behind because of the rain. So we'll keep our fingers crossed. Next topic, or anybody else want to say any more on this?
I just wanted to ask if you got the email that said that we probably should develop our mission statement, and then at a later meeting.
Yes, I did. I thought that was going to get that in the bottom of it.
Okay, so it's at the bottom now. All right, very good. Okay. Yeah. So what's next?
So the Marguerite tournament, which is the Ojai, is coming up, which is the boys division at Ojai, and it's a huge. The Marguerite is coming along really fine. We should be able to nail down. We've got some.
It's the girl.
High profile schools to play, so that's for the girls in the fall. So just letting you know, we should be announcing. I know I'm already getting calls from the CIF San Diego and CIF. They want to know the dates so they can get it out to their schools. So we've got a date that fits in between the Yamasaki tournament. It's a huge tournament before, and the California junior sectionals, which is the weekend after. So it fits in perfectly, and it's right at the end of the regular season of girls tennis, but before the playoffs.
So
I have a question. So can you explain a little bit more who is the Marguerite for? Because I know we were talking about levels and whatnot, and how good do you have to be? What would be, who's that for? Because I would think about bringing some kids down, but I don't know if my team's good enough.
Okay, the Ojai, which has been around, boys division, is only boys because girls are not allowed to play because it's not in the girls' season of sport. So the boys have been able to play this prestigious event alongside Stanford and USC and all these. It's a great tournament. 119 years they've had it, and it's the most prestigious amateur tournament in the world. And boys high school tennis is only one of 10 divisions. You have to be 19 years of age or younger, you have to, each school is allowed to apply for 1 singles and 1 doubles. Even if you had the 4 best players in the state, you can only send 1 singles and 1 doubles. You apply to be invited, and the committees determine the top 64 singles and top 64 doubles. You can't play both. So we wanted, one of our goals was to have, originally I wanted to call it Ojai South, but they wouldn't let me do that. So it's called the Marguerite because it's held at the Marguerite's Tennis Center here in Mission Viejo, which is a big proponent of sports. They do the women's pro soccer of the United States here. They train here. They've had Virginia Slims. They have the Natadors, the Greg Louganis, and all this stuff. They do a lot of stuff here, and they were very behind it. Plus Dave Borelli, who coached at USC and TCU, is the general manager of all the tennis and athletics in Mission Viejo. He got behind us and helped us. We have Trevor Kroverman with the USTA, SCTA behind us, and we have CIF. So we started small, 32 draw. We're allowed to go to 64 now, and we'll be having our 3rd one this year. It's sanctioned by the CTCA, UTR, SCTA, and it will be, we're going to be a little bit different. First of all, we're a standalone tournament. There are no other events but girls high school tennis.
Okay, so
the schools can enter, they can enter more than 1 player. They have to play singles or doubles. So if your school has the 4 best players in the state, you can enter them. Now the same thing happens. You send in, you apply, and then the committee will determine. But it will be easy because we're just going to look at mainly UTR points to see, the highest ranked people play. Any other questions about this?
Okay, good. And so do you know what the approximate range of UTR rating would be to get into that?
Well, it's
What was it last year? What was the highest?
It's been lower because the high profile top 10 Division I schools in every CIF section have not been sending their players. Now we're getting the best teams from San Diego, and they're a smaller section, but Southern section, which is the big gorilla in our state, which has 1,000 high schools, the universities in the peninsulas and those kind of schools, Corona del Mar, have not been sending their players, mainly, and this is my opinion, mainly because the coach wants to have an event that he can take his whole team to, as opposed to taking 1 singles and 1 doubles and abandoning his team right before the playoffs. So by opening this up, for example, if you're in the top 10 in Division I, you probably have 6, 7, 8 people that have 6, 5, 7s, UTRs. I'm not, so that's a plus. Plus, we're toying with, we're still meeting on this, on having first match consolation. If you go to Ojai, like I'm taking one of my players to Ojai, I'm going to drive for 3.5 hours. We're going to get up in the morning, and we're probably going to be out of the tournament by 9:30, but we played Ojai. So, for those people that are coming along, this is from San Diego or from LA or from farther north, they come in. If you say, hey, you're guaranteed 2 matches, and we would call, if you lose and you're in the constellations, you play for the plate, like they used to do at Wimbledon a long time ago. If you're that old, you know what I'm talking about. So we're trying to make it as friendly, and we have, like I said, we have some tentative agreements for some of the big schools, and I know that as soon as the first question is, well, who's entered? Well, if I can say, I'm just saying Torrey Pines or that kind of stuff, then they say, oh, well, they're playing, I want to play too.
Yeah. It's important to not, it's all, never put up an empty sign-up list. So attract a couple of good, strong teams, and you'll attract, more.
Right.
So for sure,
Right.
that's
Well,
a
and then
great. Glad to hear that you're recruiting strong programs to come play in it. That's great.
Well,
and then the
Coach
fact
Burley and I have been making the rounds,
right.
personally going to coaches, and telling them. The ones that have come, I mean, we have a player's desk, a lounge with fruit and stuff. We have great seating. We have cable television interviews. We have great T-shirts and gifts. I mean, it's just the ones that have come have liked it, and they're selling it for us. Okay,
What's the date? What are the tentative dates, AG?
Oh, the dates are.
And then we should probably get on, go further down the agenda pretty quick here too. So what are those dates? You got them?
Do you have the dates? AG.
They're on the website or whatever. Okay. My internet connection's unstable. Okay. Are you there?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll get that out. All right. The grants. I have some people trying to get back to me from USTA about some grants, and then I'm working on another grant with FedEx, so that doesn't have the restrictions that we had on the one from CBS or something like that. So I'll report more on that later.
About grants, if I can jump in there on grants, I sent.
Yes.
I met a guy in Indian Wells who's from LA. He's from Culver City, and his name's Ted Salter. So he is a grant writer, and he's been successful at writing grants. And he's a tennis guy, so that's an important thing, and just really a nice guy. So I've forwarded on your number to him.
Yes.
And so I'll be in contact with Ted, because Ted and I are going to also have some private dealings between us, but just a super guy, and definitely wants to help, more kids have an opportunity to play. So anyway, so he could be a great resource.
We definitely would want to use him. I sort of checked him out a little bit, and I agree with you. He has I think he has like 10 students that help him. Is that correct? 10 of his students at the college. Am I talking about the right guy?
I don't know him well enough, so you know more than I do.
Okay. What he does is he's a professor, right? Correct.
Again. I mean, I know he's a grant writer. That's all I know, and so I know he does some.
Professor at a university, and he teaches us, and then he has some graduate students that help him, and they work on it together. So it's sort of a project. I think they make a little money on it, but it's so, and that's what they do. So
got it.
All right.
I was impressed.
Okay.
All right. The convention, this is the whole thing. We've got the Marguerite that is sponsored by Sage Hill and us and everybody else. Getting this thing, the UTR started with this. I wanted to do this earlier, but we still have time. If we're 6 months out, we can do it as far as the planning and all. But I don't want to go to make a pitch until we can say, okay, look, this is what we're doing. I mean, we have the Marguerite. We need this play days going, people playing to going. So I think we're still on schedule. We'd have to pull the plug if we get within 5 months. So we have to start within 6 months, and we can do it.
Okay, here's a question. So do we want it to be a 2-day event or a 1-day event? Because obviously there are pros and cons to that, but a 1-day event would be more convenient to people, because then they don't necessarily have to get a hotel room.
That's a good point.
But a 2-day event then creates more opportunities for socializing, and people are more likely to stay in the evening for a dinner,
right,
with a keynote address and whatnot. And it also looks better, looks more serious. So I I would strongly push to make it a 2-day event. And having just come back from this coaches summit at Indian Wells, the big feedback from that was last year there was a dinner on the first night, and this year there was not. And a lot of people thought that was a bummer, because it's those dinners. It's the time together, everybody in a big room, mixing and networking and telling stories and kind of talking about what did you learn today and all that stuff that helps build that community. So I would strongly recommend making a 2-day event, maybe even a Friday and Saturday instead of a Saturday, Sunday, because sometimes that can make travel easier for people. So I don't know. We got to brainstorm all that.
Right. I do know that we have Steve Buck, who has been the executive director of the Texas Tennis Coaches Association, has volunteered to help us because he and the current president, I can't think of his name real quick, but they're willing to help us. And I go every year to Texas, and it's a huge thing. Of course, they've been around for 40 years.
Yeah.
And they have every high coach coach. It's huge. But when they're signing contracts with Wilson, Penn, Head, do that, they can do this. They said, look, sign up here, and we want to sign up for California. And they all want to come to California.
They do.
The other thing is, I believe very strongly that we can get some keynote speakers of some of the top tennis players that live right here in Orange County. We have Coco Vandeweghe, we have Tracy Austin, we have Lindsay Davenport, we have possibly Billie Jean King if she's in town, if we can work it out. I mean, I'm throwing out these names. Obviously, they're going to say, I never agreed to come for this thing. But I think that we can, Stevie Johnson, I think there are enough people, and especially if we get Wilson, obviously they have people on contract like a coach at USC, Coach Smith, people like that can either be keynote speakers or even, Coach Gould from Stanford or whatever.
Right.
I'm just saying that we would, if we do it right, we set it up and we have the right on-court and off-court stuff, and we have a dinner and we have a keynote speaker like that, I think that's the way I want to do it. So
yeah,
I like your idea.
My only thing on that is that I hope that we would get somebody who really believes in high school tennis and not just somebody who brings star power. Because I've seen some pretty,
well, I think Tracy Austin does. Her kids don't play.
Yeah. Steve Johnson would be great because he's the poster child for for team tennis, period. Right. So,
great.
So, the Bryan brothers played high school tennis. So somebody who really believes in it, not just they're going to come and be the star power, and not really speak to the power of high school tennis, because I don't know. I've seen too many of those where I've seen too many pro and college coaches come to high school workshops and say things that don't apply to 90% of the high school players. And then you just go, okay, well, this is great for my 1 or 2 player, right, or whatever, but most of my kids just picked up a racket like the first day of the season, so this doesn't apply. I mean, we need to make sure that we have a really good range of speakers for teams that have a lot of kids who are plain beginners, some making the transition to becoming better, and then a little bit of that high performance stuff, So anyway.
I agree. Well, we feel like, just to give you an example, we have had Lindsay Davenport's kids in some of our clinics at Sage Hill.
Mm-hmm.
We've had Tracy Austin's youngest son play on one of our world team tennis team. So maybe they'll help, maybe they won't. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, just look, but let's vet them. Let's say, hey, we want team tennis, high school tennis pumped up. So yeah.
Yeah, that's where Billie Jean King would be good because of her, their world, the world team the junior tennis thing that happens, and she's a real advocate of that. She's just advocate for, getting people out to play, period, and that's so.
Right. Well, that's kind of on the back burner. We can't get there until we get this thing going. All right. The last thing we want to talk about is you want to give us a quick report, Bill, about how our website is going.
Pardon me. Sorry about that. Well, it's actually kind of at a standstill. And so I'm sorry to report that I haven't done much. And so, but it's good to have a meeting like this so that you can face the music and you can have accountability and all that. But no, what I will do actually, hold on a second. Yep.
Did you get the pictures? Were they okay? We
Okay,
were having a hard time getting all that sent to you.
Well, that was one thing, was that, I was waiting on those pictures, but then since then I've been traveling. So, but no excuses. But anyway,
Okay.
so getting those pictures was a big step, and I haven't been able to look at them yet. But I mean, from what I saw, very quickly scanning through them, I thought there were a lot of really good images of people getting along, lots of different kinds of people, and hopefully we can. And it seemed like there were some action shots in there, which is nice. So I'll go through and we'll find the most flattering action shots and create the widest representation of people that we can from what was given. And then, we can do an analysis of that and go, okay, we're missing a certain kind of person, and we'll make sure that because I think it's important messaging, because those images show what's important to the organization.
Yeah.
So we want to present that we're inclusive of everyone.
Right.
And where everybody who's in on high school tennis, then you're there. So my next step will be to, honest to goodness, go through those images and sort through them and pick out, like 10 or 20 or 30. And then, I just got a notice we have 10 minutes left in our meeting.
Okay.
So I will, pick out the best of, and then we can go back, and then I will present those at a meeting. We'll do a share screen. And next week, we'll start selecting which pictures do we want to be front and center. And then, in earnest, I will begin to get the website starting to line up through Sports Pros Connect this week. So I'll make the first move with Mark Wylam. And one of the great things about the website that we're aligning ourselves with is it's not just a dedicated standalone website for CTCA. It's also a conduit for coaches who want to also have their own website and become part of a community of coaches. So then you get a listing along with all the other coaches that are on this service. So it's more than just a website provider. It's a tennis coach community builder, and I'm proud to be a part of it and on it as privately. And CTCA, I think, has a lot to gain by being on it as well. And then, sorry, I'm getting distracted by my phone. But yeah, so I'll make the first steps with Mark, and then once we have pictures selected next week, I'll forward those on to him, and we'll continue on. But probably the skeleton.
Andrea, do you have the copy of the statement? I think it's good. I love it.
Okay. So you want to do mission statement?
I have it. I mean, I'm reading it here. I've read it over. I think it's excellent.
Okay, do you want to read it for us?
Yeah, read it.
Okay, let me read it real quickly. The mission of the CTCA is to promote high school tennis in the state of California and around the United States. CTCA offers coaching, community education, and tennis business related activities to help programs fundraise. CTCA aligns with all healthy competitive outlets that serve the majority of high school players. CTCA also stands for the highest level of integrity on, court, and off, with great sportsmanship, honest, and professional business practices.
Okay.
It's good.
Excellent. That was first draft. Now, let's, let it bounce around and maybe we'll refine that. But now from that mission, then I think in the next meeting, we can get into what are our major objectives, and like start developing a 5-year plan.
Okay.
And so, like some of them are no-brainers. One, fully integrate UTR business opportunities for coaches, right? Objective number 2, put on a world-class level educational workshop and, and community building experience for coaches. Number 3, 4, 5, I don't know what those are, but, so we've got a couple of objectives already that we're working on, but to, outline them and then set up goals underneath them will be a good thing. So we can flesh out some objectives next week. So we have less than 6 minutes left.
Okay,
well, I'm pretty well through. Also,
Andrea, yes.
And I was just saying, the next UTR play day is on March 23rd.
Okay.
So that's in 2 weeks.
Right.
So I looked right now. There's not any signups at the moment. And I know everyone's going to wait till the last minute to see what the weather does. But I just wanted to put that out there that the next one day UTR is going to be March 23rd, and then the next one after that is on April the 6th. So that's what we have coming up basically in the next month. So.
Got it.
The other thing is that I'm sure with you, Bill, we've had so much rain, the coaches will email and make copies when they're scrambling to get the buses changed and this and then they cancel this and remake league matches. They're all frazzled, including me. So we just get some clear weather and then they get caught up and then they say, okay, now I'll do this and do that. They want to do it. I just know that they say, I can't talk about it right now,
All right, I have something to share because you said that, right?
Good.
Okay, so this is a picture that I got from a coach that I mentor who's in Minnesota. And this is his kids shoveling snow off the courts.
Wow.
So that the sun can melt the rest of the snow so they can play tennis. So that's how the rest of the country works.
When Andre was a teenager and I was working in Dallas and we didn't have indoor courts at Canyon Creek Country Club, if the weather was bad, we wanted it to get cold so the water would freeze and be snow because we could sweep the court off and play. But if it was wet, we couldn't. So
nice. That's good.
Grace had a tournament this last weekend in Wichita Falls, and it was a sustained winds of 25 mile an hour up to 45, 50 mile an hour gusts. And she wrenched her shoulder. We were at the doctor yesterday because the ball took off, and this girl hit a really, really good heavy slice and took off and popped her shoulder. I mean, it was 50 mile an hour gusts. I mean, it's just crazy. It was just a freak thing, but yeah, that's not tennis. That was just like, oh dear Lord. It was bad. I mean, you toss the ball up to serve and it's literally across the net at your opponent before you knew it. It was awful. It was awful. So, I mean,
We call that inclement weather. That's time to stop playing.
They don't call it for the cold and they don't call it for the heat here in Texas. It doesn't matter. or
Yeah.
the rain.
All
I mean,
right.
it's just all. I mean, of course, the courts are wet, then they'll call it. But I mean, yeah. I mean, it doesn't matter, cold, heat, as long as it's not wet, they play. So it's crazy.
Got it.
So,
Okay, so
anyway.
are we done?
Okay, I think we're done. Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Andrea. And we'll see you next week, and I'll keep you posted on what's going on.
Thank you. Good meeting.
All right, take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.